Good morning, Australia. Good evening, North America. You're watching Talking Baseball Australia Live. My name is Dan Vaughan. Paul Morgan and I coming to you right now. Coming to you in 3, 2, 1. Let's cue that open. Here we go. It's TBA Live.
It's Talking Baseball Australia. It's baseball updates you'll really love. The MLB and ABL news you want. With Paul Morgan and Dan Vaughan. It's baseball's best mate all year round. From the batter's box to the
And with that,
mound.
welcome to Talking Baseball Australia Live. My name is Dan Vaughan, my broadcast partner in crime, the one, the only Paul Morgan. Will bring him in right now in 3, 2, 1. The audio's up. He is joining us in the lovely West. Good morning to you, mate. Good evening to me. How you doing, buddy? I love the new top there too.
Yes, our bullpen top. Very exciting times. Very exciting times. We'll talk more about that in the later shows, DV. But all well in the West. We're not as not as bad off as our good friends in the East Coast, of course, who are in a 6-week lockdown. So feel for all our Melbourne Aces fans, all the baseball fans in Melbourne. Of course, they've got nothing to do but sit around home, twiddle their thumbs for the next 5 weeks and 5 days, I think it is. So hard lockdown in Melbourne. It's which obviously, DV, plays into some question marks in the ABL season.
Yeah, yes, it does. It also kind of was what Texas Ranger fans are doing. They're going to be in a 6-week lockdown anyway because after watching that nonsense, but it's a whole other business, whole other story. The show's Talking Baseball Australia Live. We're going to bring you baseball news from an Australian point of view and talk a little about the ABL. And we're going to put our thinking caps on in a few minutes. I'll give you a little bit of MLB stuff, and we take your questions, comments. Love to hear from you guys right now. You can jump on the chat and really get rolling and get talking a little baseball as we make our way, which it's a weird – I don't know if you feel the same way that I do, and I guess I'm gonna – our question tonight is grade the MLB launch so far. With this relaunch of the MLB, I want a grade from you guys. You guys are watching this worldwide. Let me know. Are they getting the A, B, C, D, F? Are they passing the class or whatever? I want to hear that because it's still weird. We are August 6th, 7th, wherever you're watching this right now, and we're only, what? I mean, we're at the quarter pole. It's just weird. The whole season is just freaking weird, mate. Freaking weird.
It is. It's very, very weird. Look, I personally, I think they're around a C minus, maybe slide into a D. That would be where I would see it. I think, like, obviously they've had catastrophes left, right, and center. I still feel like, and I know you're probably in a sense, I feel like they're still trying to act as if nothing's gone wrong, and they haven't really innovated a lot. And to me, the games aren't necessarily that exciting to watch. I mean, it's kind of been fun to tune in and tune out, but I think it's really hard to grab. I don't know how you feel, but I feel like it's the product at the moment. It's just hard to grab the attention for the full 9 innings, in my opinion. But I'm sure other people would disagree with me big time.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm the same way with you. I'm having a hard time just catching this whole thing. I mean, I sit through it, but it just I don't know what it is. I guess the timing of it. Because my internal clock tells me it's post All-Star break. We just made a big bunch of trades last week, and there's all kinds of flurry on the dog days of August. Yeah. The dog days of August are actually the early parts of the season. It's real strange. So crazy stuff. But on the show tonight, we're going to talk about the MLB a bit, the ABL, as I mentioned, and we're going to give you guys some other items as well. I guess we jump in. We've talked about this consecutively weeks now. It's the domino effect. First, it was we started, then we had the first outbreak, the Marlins, and last week it was the Cardinals, and now you're seeing the third domino with this whole schedule. The big news today in the States about mid-afternoon was that they're going to add those games that were missed by the Marlins on the back end of the schedule. And suddenly the Marlins have got some crazy number of, I believe, 7 games and 5, some really crazy schedule. Did you get a chance to see this and your thoughts on that Major League schedule? What a mess.
I did. I had a look at what the Blue Jays got coming up. Of course, their series got canned against the Phillies, but Yeah, look, I don't know. Like for me, DV, he's sort of just trying to ram stuff in for the sake of ramming stuff in. It's just not. None of it's really well thought out, put together. It's just sort of, it's literally like when you make one of those mystery juices. You just throw everything in the blender and hope that the blender doesn't explode. And that's kind of, I think, what it is. But look, the Marlins playing 7 games in 5 days is ridiculous as well. You're going to have there's Evan Max thinks so as well.
Yeah,
So
he thinks so too. Yeah,
yeah.
he thinks so too. Yeah, you heard it.
He's waiting for who let the dogs out this season. Look, it's. I mean, I don't know what. Maybe they. I think originally they wanted to wait until the end, but of course, the way that they're done with the expanded postseason. I mean, most teams make the postseason. It's a little bit like the ABL of old this year in Major League Baseball. Most teams, doesn't matter how you go, make the postseason. So, look, it's really that'll have to. I imagine. Because really, on those double headers, I mean, that's an opportunity to bring that taxi squad in to play one and maybe the other. But then they can't do that because they don't have probably the clubhouses set up unless they do that. But it's just a mess, DV.
Yeah, I don't know what to say other than I'm going to give you a couple of bullet points from this whole release. Now, did you see that? Here's the crazy thing. Here's the Miami Marlins. This is their PR media relations department. Here's their tweet this afternoon. I just saw this just a few minutes ago. It was a tweet in their email, and it says, please note the Marlins will now conclude the 2020 season with 27 games over the final 23 days, which includes no off days and 4 doubleheaders in a 10-day span. Is that telling your fans and media out there who cover you that, oh, by the way, we're not going to win a lot of these games, and if we somehow survive and make it in the postseason, it'll be a miracle? I mean, it's like, talk about raising the white flag, and they point out the obvious, but I've never seen a PR department actually come out and say, hey, this ain't good, folks. And that's what they're up against, the Marlins. That's crazy.
Well, they'll be put together by duct tape getting into that postseason if they make it. I mean, look, but think logistically. I mean, that pitching staff is going to be absolutely taxed. Like, how are they going to manage all that? Let alone, that's a lot of games to play in a time that, it's like when you're already seeing. Of course, you saw Max Scherzer's gone off with that hamstring injury this week. You've got Justin Verlander, of course, has had that elbow injury. You've got all these pitchers currently who have problems with soft tissue injuries, and I agree with the great GM. I don't think the Marlins schedule is possible.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough when Harold telling us he's in the West, saying is baseball here in Australia a goer, edited version. We're going to get to that here. We actually going to get to that the next couple of weeks. I imagine, and I'm just going to tease this right now for you, Harold, and others that are watching us on now live or whenever. Next week, we're going to hear from the man himself, Cam Vale, head of Baseball Australia in the league. If anybody knows how the plans are going to go down, he'll be the guy. And we expect to hear something in the next 2 or 3 weeks about a schedule. And we're going to talk about that toward the back end of the show. What we hope would happen. If they ask us our advice, what we give them is what we do. By the way, you're going to see Donna out there as well, watching us in Kansas City. I'm glad you guys are along here and talking baseball. Australia baseball's best mate. But Fallout City. I don't know. We say this every week, but every week it changes. Last week we were talking about who was next, and we were talking about this when we were on the air. And this is the thing that I think that's concerning. Let's just say no other team has any issues from here going forward. It's still going to be a challenge, not just for the Marlins, but look at the teams that are impacted here. I mean, you're looking at Detroit, St. Louis, Chicago, Milwaukee. These are all teams that have new schedules came out today. Toronto, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Boston. I mean, those are the teams all impacted there. Let's say they get one more of these things. Are they going to have another 25, 26, 28 games thrown on the back end, and all of a sudden you're going to have doubleheader? I mean, can they afford, Paul? And I don't think they can. I think the answer for me is I don't think they can. Can they afford one more meltdown? If not, they're just going to say, well, this is what we're going to play and be done with it.
Well, typically, Miami's a great example. I mean, there are a couple, say the Dodgers, if they have a mess up now, maybe you can sort of patch it through. But the Miami Marlins are already, you would think, at absolute capacity at the back end of that season. Now, if they drop another 2-3 games, and not to mention, like, the weather's starting to change in, it's now we're into August, and some parts of the country that Miami go and play, particularly up in Boston when they'll go to Boston, and up in Buffalo when they'll play the Blue Jays up there. It's possible you're going to start getting rainouts as well up in those parts as well. So, I mean, you've got everything crossed for the Marlins, but you're right. They are probably a series, a postponed series away from having to either say, all right, well, we're going to exit stage left, and maybe Major League Baseball is just going to say, sorry, Miami, but you're out of it now, and but that's the only way that you could possibly do it.
Yeah, thanks for playing, so to speak. Anything else, Dan? I mean, I'm watching the games. I got right now Major League Baseball on right now. Mets. I mean, sorry, the Yankees and Phillies. I don't think it's too early yet to be saying who looks great, who doesn't. But has any club so far that you've seen really stand out to you? I mean, it's not too early, I guess, but we still just started 2 weeks ago. Anybody stand out to you that you're thinking, anybody team-wise? I think you mentioned it last week, the Twins. Anybody else in the Twins getting your attention right now?
I think the Yankees are a mile out in front of anyone at the moment. I think, they've got – I was listening to something about the Yankees this morning. I think they've got seven of their 9 lineup are all multi-home run hitters. They've really the only guys who haven't sort of fired a shot. I think the bizarre one that's not really hitting is Gary Sanchez, and also was Brett Gardner. But I think of Brett Gardner's 4 hits, 3 of them have been home runs or something sort of like that. But they've got out of the gate. And as I was sort of saying, like for the Yankees, probably more than any other team, the COVID situation, the delayed start in the season probably suited them more than anyone. They had Giancarlo Stanton came back fit. They had Aaron Judge come back fit. Paxton come back fit, pitching, and our oldest Chapman, of course, he's coming back from COVID-19. But they're probably you would think DV. I'm not sure what your thoughts are on teams, but for me, they're the ones that we probably were already early favourites and have done nothing to suggest they won't be.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. They look the chalk, as we like to say. Although I do like what the Twins have put together. I got to tell you today, I had a chance to watch the last couple of days the Athletics and the Rangers. Now, granted, I watched the Rangers, which is like you got to wear masks to watch them because they're so bad. But you might catch whatever they got. But I kind of enjoyed watching the Athletics, and I can't tell you why, as I'm not a huge fan of theirs, and it didn't look like anything different than normal there, stadium-wise. But I like what they got. Their club impressed me. It just seemed like they have a lot of unknown pop that I hadn't seen. I mean, I looked up, they raced a 4-0 deficit, like that. That's just a knee jerk. I mean, of course, I love the Dodgers, and the Dodgers should be fine in the long haul. I'm interested to see what moves are made, if there are any moves made. I think that's going to be interesting then to see what clubs do, who will knee jerk, who will be the knee jerk reaction to this whole deal, and say, we got to make a move now. Because remember, the trade deadline will come up later in the month, and it's going to be, what are you going to go all in for a short sprint, or are you going to just hold your cards till next year? I think that's going to be the key to watch too. But overall, that's my thinking as we shift into this show is not really about Major League Baseball per se, although we do cover Major League Baseball. We try to give you the Australian point of view here on Talking Baseball Australia. And 2 guys who've had pretty good weeks, well, actually 3, but 2 guys that have had busy weeks. And we're going to get to Liam in a moment. But I want to talk a little bit about, Lewis Thorpe made his debut. Well, not debut. He made his starting debut, and moved from the bullpen to the rotation over the course of the last week. He's been the bullpen. Didn't go bad. Didn't go good. He
clear the deck. A cannonball for Cole Tucker.
Derek Shelton returning to Minnesota, very popular bench coach here.
Got a no decision, the 5-4 win over the Pirates on Monday for Minnesota.
Cole Tucker going to lead things off. First pitch is lined to deep left field and clear the deck.
Did you hear me?
Cannonball for Cole Tucker. Cole Tucker gives the.
Did I lose you there, bud? Did you hear me?
Sorry, man. I lost. I could hear the game. I couldn't hear you. But
okay, you couldn't. Okay, well, I didn't hear the game, so all good. So your thoughts on Lewis Thorpe on that? I don't know what happened there. My bad. Thoughts on him on his outing over the course of Monday?
Yeah, I think he was. I think he'd be okay with it. It wasn't, but that's a contending team, so I think you have to be better than okay, and that's probably where he would be frustrated himself. But I thought I think any time we see an Australian pitch, we automatically probably think it's a gazillion times better than it is. I think he's got a little bit of work to do, but I think he didn't look out of place. That was that's the one thing that
I think a little bit pitch selection was a little off. I don't know if there was something off between him and behind the plate. I thought he had pretty good movement. 36 to 67 pitches were strikes. He had a lot of. Here's what I liked about it. Yes, there were traffic on the base paths. He was dodging trouble all night long. But the fact is, he kept the team in the ball game, which in his spot is basically it's basically the fifth starter role anyway for the Twins right now. And he's going to get at least one more turn in the rotation. I think that's all you can ask right now. A young guy, one of the publications said he was lucky. Well, you also got to throw strikes. And I thought the key was at certain situations, he threw strikes to get ahead and he worked ahead when he had to. Now, he fell behind way too often. I believe at some point it was like 5 straight batters he fell behind. But when he had trouble, he was able to work ahead. He seemed to be more aggressive. And that's also part of evolution of a pitcher. As a young man, getting more confidence in your stuff, because we know he's got great stuff. And I think maybe the nerves could have gotten to you. Yeah. I don't know how much of a different, and this would be interesting to ask him down the road, how much of that environment now is different than last year. His debut last year in front of a big crowd, this year in front of nothing but paper cutouts. How different is that for a young player who's not been the spotlight? I wonder how much that plays into it. But he 3.12 ERA for the season, going to make it. He's going to get one more start, and that's kind of my take on him there.
Yeah, I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head, DV, and I think that's I think the big plus is he didn't look like a couple of small adjustments and he'll be fine. I think he didn't look lost, and that's the big part. You often see, this season I think you've seen a bunch of guys that immediately get up there and look lost, but he didn't do that. But boy, I like what the next guy on the screen though, DV. He just solidified himself as.
I hope you guys can see this on this highlight here, because he's showing that emotion. We talked about this last week. It's a totally different guy. And I don't know if you guys can see the screen's a little small. Let's see if I can get a little bit large. Well, no. Let me just give you toward the end of it. I'll actually replay it in a moment after we get your comments. But he has become a bulldog type mentality. He looks like a guy that knows what he's doing. He's confident what he's doing. He doesn't matter who he's facing. I mean, the whole, and I've talked about this last week, the body language thing just is so important with Liam Hendricks. And I love what we see from him. This week, you got the win and relief. Of course, it was a 1-1 ball. And here's the thing. As a closer, oftentimes at home, you'll bring the closer in a tie ball game, because the last thing you're going to do is fall behind it and lose that ball game in the ninth inning. So you want to keep it so you can walk it off the bottom of the ninth inning. The A's did that. He pitches the top of the ninth. They walk it off with a grand slam. He gets the win, but that's exactly what you're there for. People don't realize that closers are not there just to close ball games. They're also there in tie ball games to keep that thing 1-1, 5-5, whatever, to give your team a chance to win it at home in their last at bat.
Yep, it's spot on again, DV. But I think, and this would be the interesting part, I think, to ask Liam and also Lewis Thorpe. Liam is at that stage where he really belongs, and I think maybe you can see Lewis potentially has that sort of thoughts going through his head over the next few days. Boy, if I have a terrible outing, I'm down with the taxi squad, I'm not quite here yet, I haven't quite arrived, constant toying with emotions. And you see that body language from Liam Hendricks. He believes he belongs there. He believes he should be pitching in the big leagues. He believes he should be in high leverage situations. And he's going out and executing. And I think that's where you're seeing all that positive body language. I think he's probably had enough bumps along the road to know that every now and then he's going to make a bad pitch that's going to be punished, or make a good pitch that's going to get you're throwing to the best hitters in the world. But he just seems to have that confidence. I don't know. Since moving to Oakland, it's just been it's all been tick 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 for him.
Yeah, I want to put this on the screen, so you're not going to be able to see it. I don't think. I'm going to put this on the screen with the fans to see him, his emotion. This is just it's going to play for us here, but I want you guys to see the emotion of just a guy that he just seems. he seems so man. He just seems like he's enjoying the moment. I love that about him. One more thing too. I don't know if you saw this, but of course, I didn't know this. Did you know this about his health situation? I didn't realize this, but he has come out in the San Francisco paper and the Bay Area papers and talked about that he was diagnosed with an autoimmune liver disorder as a teenager. I didn't know this. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I know he grabbed a lot of fans this week though, DV.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I saw that, and he took medication. It came back in 15. He said, and he takes this medication daily. But apparently, he was at this caused a high risk for him. But he's fought on through it, and he made the papers out in the Bay Area. Talked about that. And he's become a real. I think that whole story of his, that storyline of his with the immune deficiency with his liver has become really a feel-good story to see a guy battling through it. I think he's winning fans, not just in Australia, but in North America, which, that's, he kind of started doing that when he was, making coffee in the big leagues in Toronto and Kansas City. And I think he's definitely doing it there in Oakland.
Yeah, well, I think what he won a lot of fans with this week. He gave an interview, of course, in around that, but he also said that like basically he's going to the ballpark and then isolating at home, which paraphrasing, he said he suits him fine because he doesn't like people anyway.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, he said. At the end of the day, I just take care of my business, take care of that. It's all I got to do. But I didn't, don't mind not being around folks. He's fine with that. Hey. He's a man after my youngest daughter's own heart. She's the same way.
Well, it's funny, reading through the comments from the reporter that put up the tweet, and everyone's like, introverts unite. Like he is the king of all introverts. But just the amount of love that he got from it, because people going, boy, I'm the same. And that's and for some people who just don't like people, I mean, it's been a great year.
But don't you think though? I love in sport. I love characters. We love our characters, right? We love those characters that make our games, and I think that's good for especially baseball. Baseball has taken such a beating, some of the nonsense they've done, but we need our characters. And if a guy comes from Australia, comes to North America, and he's got a bit of a hey, you know what? I don't mind being at home by myself kind of thing. And people get a kick out of that, and it creates some tweets and some fun banner back and forth among fans of the team. That's really all you can ask for. And if he goes out and leads the league in saves or has a sparkling ERA, that's a bonus, I guess. But I mean, I love our people. I love the personalities of our games. He is a personality.
And you're right. And probably of all the major sports in the US, I mean, baseball is probably, the least amount of characters that sort of, it's a lot of, we talk about cookie cutter broadcasters all the time. There's a lot of cookie cutter characters as well, floating around the team. So.
We need our characters for sure. We need our characters for sure. Part of our program, before we go to our next segment, I want to go ahead and give you I saw this, and this came out of New Zealand. Most of the New Zealand papers, or the New Zealand media, carried this first. I don't know how much stock I put into it, but and then a lot of it set off a chain. We were on the chain on Twitter, like a 16. It's very rare that an ABL chain goes like that on Twitter in the summer in the States. Yeah. But we had a 16 tweet chain going on about this possible development that Manny being Manny may, speaking of characters, he may find himself in Tuatara colors and they're on the island.
Well, I mean, talk about a team to just, all of a sudden I think they just said they're having conversations with him, but they've got not only Manny Ramirez, but they also think that the big king Felix Hernandez could be on the hill for the Tuatara as well. So, but you look, Manny Ramirez, if he comes, I think it's one of those things that he would be easily the highest profile player to ever play in the ABL by a country mile. I mean, you're talking about a person that is still so incredibly loved in Boston for his heroics in the 2004 World Series and the MVP, of course, of that. But I'm with you. I think maybe it sounded a bit more like hey, I bumped into Manny in a pub and we talked about the Tuatara, and he thought he'd always wanted to come to New Zealand. So that it sounded a bit more like that than it did anything else. But
hey, but when your game gets a headline, I'm going to put this on the screen for you guys. When your game gets a headline like this in New Zealand media, I mean, this is cool. It says 2-time World Series champion Manny Ramirez to play for Tuatara. And if ABL season goes ahead, I'm going to unwrap that in two pieces here quickly. But that the fact that you're getting publicity at this time of year is good. Anytime you get the 2-time world champion in a headline with your ABL, that's a good thing. The league has got to love, and if you're in the marketing department, gurus sitting there going, well, that's pretty good news for us, for Auckland to have that kind of thing going out to the, because that's a national media story. And granted, sports a little slow now, but that's a great thing to see that headline. Manny being Manny, possibly there. There was some debate today, and I want to cover that quickly on the Twitter fodder, that some folks were, some of the guys in Victoria thought that he'd wind up in Brisbane, and that they were kind of fighting about who might wind up. But it appears, just by reading the story, he reached out to them. That's his call.
Yeah. Could you imagine him though if he was playing for Brisbane, Manny Ramirez, if he was batting in that stadium? It's just that would be just he would.
How many home runs would Manny Ramirez hit there in Brisbane? How many do you think would he? Okay. Could he hit one a game? If they say, let's say they played 20 normal home games, could he hit 20 for sure there, at least 20?
Oh, easily.
And would you think multiple games he would have multiple homers?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're talking about probably, most younger players pop flies the center, probably are home runs for Manny Ramirez in Brisbane. So would it be safe to say, would you think it'd be safe to, as I'm thinking, over under of 30 home runs for the season? Because I figure a couple of the bigger ballparks, he might scuffle a bit, but 30, 35 home runs? Could he hit 30, 40 in a 40-game season? I think he could hit 40 as well. I mean, you probably, I would think you'd almost take to the bank he's going to hit 20 to 25 in Brisbane. If this was the case, and then look, he might struggle in some of the bigger parts and some of the parks that the wind blows in a bit. But boy, I mean that would be something. But
well,
look, it'd be cool.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say it would be cool. I think one of the things that as well. I mean, the Boston Globe picked up this story as well, and Boston.com picked up this story, and it's such a look. If the season goes ahead, which is one of the big parts of the headline, we'll unpack in a second. But that would be just an incredible coup for the Tuatara, and look, and the Tuatara's time, like their time zones, or should I say, is pretty friendly to the East Coast of America and also the West Coast of America. So it could be something cool for baseball in New Zealand and also in the ABL.
Yeah, and I'll close with this too. There was a time, and we talked about this a couple of times recently, where players like this would have. When Delman Young came over, that was a big deal. Guys like this didn't kick the tire. Guys like Delman Young didn't kick the tires of the ABL until a couple of years ago, and a guy like Manny Ramirez just even kicking the tires. And if King Felix is the rumored to be going to Auckland as well, yes, he's not the same guy he was 5-6 years ago, but it's still, this is a marketable name, and this can only help the league with a shot in the arm regardless. It doesn't matter if it's New Zealand or Australia. The league as a whole, it'll help the league as a whole.
So, DV, I mean, for example, and there's a lot of young players we love in this league, and a lot of young players in Australia, but if Felix Hernandez, King Felix, is indeed pitching for the Auckland Tuatara, I mean, yes, of course he's not at his big league best, but how good is that for Ulrich Bialski to see Felix Hernandez pitch? I mean, he's still going to have something, you'd imagine. I mean, that's a veteran pitcher like that. I mean, for these junior players coming through. Also, I think what Manny Ramirez and Felix Hernandez do for the league is it helps it elevate to that spot. Exactly what the NBL basketball market themselves as. They market themselves as the second best professional basketball league in the world. The ABL has just got to market itself as the best winter league destination in the world. And that's just
and that's where we're segueing in, because we're not actually going overall league-wise, but we're going to talk about the league in a second. Some thoughts we had. I'll say this, and I say it every time. How many times I've said this: players talk, they talk, and then you are player, whoever it may be. Give me. I'll use Jake Fraley for example. Jake Fraley is sitting in the clubhouse in Seattle, and somebody says, I need to play winter ball somewhere, and Jake's going to say, well, you know what? I played in Australia a couple of years ago, and I loved it. It was a great opportunity. They treated me well, my family. It was awesome. And you talk that kind of conversation goes on all the time. And I'm with you. I firmly believe the league, the best promotion of the league is the players themselves. And these guys talk and they tell each other, hey, skip Venezuela. Australia's the place to go. And I'm with you. I believe the Australian Baseball League can be the best winter baseball league in the world. I'm with you.
I agree. And I think you just that has to be the vision, and that has to be the constant that they communicate. As I say, NBL basketball over the past 5 years made it very, very clear that they wanted to be the second best basketball league. They know they'll never hold a candle to the NBA, and they don't need to hold a candle to the NBA. But exactly, and in that time, they managed to get. Last year they had Lonzo Ball come down, or LaMelo Ball, should I say, come down and play, who'd probably be the number one draft pick for the New York Knicks in theory. That RJ Hampton play for the New Zealand Breakers as well, who's going to be top 10 probably NBA draft pick. Now, if all of a sudden, and that's the big part for the basketball, because they sort of thought, hey, if we can get guys who are going to be locked in top 10 draft picks come to Australia to get professional experience, so they don't go the college route because maybe they don't need to go the college route, they don't want to, or you get guys coming off who've had cups of coffee in the NBA and playing, and then use the NBL as a way back to the NBA, and it's just like that narrative has worked well, and I think for ABL that needs to be the narrative.
Well, let's shift to the next thing. It's you and I are we've been hired. Not really, but we've been hired as to consult, and the league is we don't know what's going to happen going forward this year. We're talking about this year. This is not a league down the road. This is for this 2020-21 season. We've been given the keys of the kingdom. We're going to consult. We're going to give suggestions to what we think would be the ideal. Oh, there he is, folks. There he is.
My special guest.
Hey, mate, how we doing? Good morning to you, sir. There he is.
I'll come in a second and fix it.
Lethe, how you going, buddy? Good to see you.
Our live broadcast.
Yeah, live broadcast. But you want to start first? I'm going to put this on the screen and see if it'll actually. Hope it doesn't mute you. But I'm going to go ahead and roll it. But the B-roll here. But if it mutes you, then I'll turn it off. But what do you think? It's COVID central. Everything's going crazy. What does Paul Morgan do to get this season off and make it fly?
I think the biggest thing that you need to do is, because I would think if this season happens at all, which I'm still I would lean into the less likely than more likely. A broadcast product is the first and biggest thing that I think needs to happen. In my opinion, it's I just think you need to get something that, you've got the product playing at the moment. I mean, you've got to get the people who are prepared to pay $20 to $50 a year or whatever for a season, that if you do end up going into a hub, then owners aren't going to lose their shorts. You've got a product like this that people can play.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. I'm going to go off on a little bit of a ledge here, because I don't know. It looks like travel is going to be a bit of an issue. It looks like you're going to have to probably, if this thing's going to fly, you have to probably play in some kind of regional, whether it be a hub or playing all in one state. Whether it be in the West or the East or whatever. That sounds like that's going to happen, I would think. But what I would like to see this thing do is possibly pare the schedule down, starting, say, in January, and playing 2 series a week, and trying to get this thing done in 4 or 5 weeks, as opposed to going stretching it out over the long haul. I mean, that's kind of my thing. And then the second thing I'd add to that, I think this year a modified playoff, more like the KBO. The KBO has their top 7 teams make it. Maybe the top 5 teams make it, 6 teams make it,
No balls,
and
two
you
strikes.
and
Another
you,
independent
you
player
something
here
like
from,
maybe something
the
like
stateside that came over
the
late, Nate
team
Sampson,
who wins the league regular season
shortstop
title
in Sioux
has a
City.
double whammy. They could lose 2 games, kind of like the
Fouled
footy
away. He plays
does.
for
You can
former
lose two games before you're
90s
actually
Heat coach Steve
eliminated
Montgomery,
from the
who's
postseason round robin.
the
Make it a
skipper there in
fun
Sioux City.
postseason
Excuse my
kind of
naivety,
baseball,
Dan. Let me
World
fire
Baseball Classic
this question at
postseason
you.
tournament.
These guys that
Something
play
different,
indie ball,
something
what are
outside
they
the box
doing
we've not seen
prior to
before in the
heading out here
ABL
to Australia?
because
Where would these guys be
we
staying
talked
in
about
shape
this year,
and
all bets
game
are off.
fit?
Ground ball left
Yeah,
side.
I love that
Sam
idea as
spins and
well.
throws,
I
and
think one of the
Gotti,
other
you know,
ones.
most of the time,
I'm just enjoying your
they're just
commentary
working
that's
out,
coming
and they're just
through.
kind of
Are you hearing it? I don't know. Is it going?
Yeah.
Is it going over? I didn't hear if it's going over. I don't think it's bleeding over. But was it bleeding over? I don't think it was. Let's see if it's bleeding over. Let's see.
World
Baseball Classic postseason tournament. Oh yeah, you can hear it in the background. I had it down, turned it out a little bit, but yeah, all good. Sorry about that, but I had it turned down a little bit. But yeah, the natural sound of it though. But courtesy of the ABL, there we appreciate it, though. But
yeah, I love it. My second thought of what they could do, and I think going with you with the fact that the travel is going to be an issue. I actually don't mind the idea, and look, this doesn't benefit clubs at all, but I don't benefit ABL teams at all. I like the idea of almost like a UEFA Cup championship, so everyone goes back to their state league clubs,
right.
And then the battle of WA. So if that's the Melville Braves, whoever it is, then they all come together as a national tournament that they may represent WA for a national tournament. I don't mind that idea. I think that the broadcast deal is probably not going to happen. So, you've got to then go, how do we keep baseball alive? That's another option, I think.
Yeah, those all good. I just think that, and we've talked about this, and this is where, and we're going to end teasing next week's show. But one thing the American Association of the States has done, and one thing Major League Baseball didn't do, Major League Baseball threw a bunch of plans out, leaked a bunch of plans out, and got some thumbs up, got some thumbs down. What they didn't do was have plan A, B, C, D, which is what the hockey's done in the States and what the NBA's done with their bubble system. And they've got a plan A. They've got some contingency plans. NFL is working through that now. We're seeing the colleges work through that, the fall sports. Some of them are already canceled, but some are going to play. I think what the advantage, and I've said this last week, that there's a smaller league, and I think that's manageable if you can get the travel thing worked out. And you're going to have a plan in place. And I believe they'll have, and I have no doubt that the league will have a plan A, B, and C. I mean, they'll be, because you're going to have to, because we don't know. Look back to June. I'll go back to the 1st of June, how things look then and how things look now. And how it could be much better come October 1. It could be much worse. Who knows? But you've got to be able to change with the situation. That's going to be the key. And if you can change the situation, why not do an FA Cup, or why not do like in Japan, for example, the high schools have every high school enters this tournament. It's a huge deal. And it's basically one and done. If you just keep moving along, it's kind of like the old the Hoosiers movie, the very similar deal like the old Hoosiers movie. Everybody was in the one big pool, and the last team standing won it all. Something outside the box like that, or something where you play 2 series a week. But it's the one trick that's going to be, and I'm interested to ask this when Cam Vale joins us next week. The one question mark that I think is going to be in everybody's mind, if this pool thing happens, if it happens, how is it financially viable? That's going to be the real key. That's going to be the real key. Yeah. How can you do it without losing your shorts?
And I think as it stands right now, I don't think you can. And that's where, in the end, I think without, and look, and I don't want to harp on this too much, but a lot of the, Major League Baseball was involved in the ABL for a long time. People who were involved in the ABL during that time, I think, are guilty to, enjoying the money that came from Major League Baseball and perhaps not building a sustainable league for a time like this. And now that you sort of, with the new regime, Cam hasn't been around that long to be able to change, what historically happened. It's really like you're in a model. You're in a model that if you don't have fans, you don't make money. Like, I mean, there's not many teams making enormous amounts of money on merchandise. Some are. The Heat did a great job this year, and there are better things. But without fans in the stand, with every sports team on the planet that's a legitimate sports team look at the Rangers are making money at the moment from their broadcast deal. They're not making money from anything else, and they'll probably be they've made enough money over the years to make to be able to sustain this season. But there just has not been things put in place over a long period of time that really kind of come out and become glaringly obvious in times like these. And how you go about it now without losing your shorts, I don't think there's a way that you can. And then it's like if you own a team, if you own a franchise, I mean, like, why at the same time? Like, you've got to understand that you're asking probably owners to flush a couple $100,000 down the toilet too, which is. And look, there are a lot of people that own teams that are very wealthy, but it's at the same time, I mean, who would do that?
Right. It's a tough thing. And let's call it what is it. What the Australian Baseball League is, it's a minor league model in general because you only play so many games. On a really good year, the margin for error in the MILB, let's say, give me the Albuquerque Isotopes or give me a team, the Hickory Crawdads, whoever. West Michigan Whitecaps, where Ulrich was last year. The margin of profit is real narrow. The window's real narrow. A couple things happen good and bad for you, weather-wise or schedule-wise, and especially weather. You could get a couple of rainouts, and suddenly your profit line, your profit margin shrinks. You lose a Friday or Saturday night rainout, you're going to have 5,000 fans, and you've got maybe 6% of your operating budget's coming from that one night. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, okay, this baseball thing in the minor leagues. And that's basically what we're seeing. The ABL is kind of the same thing. It's the same growing business model. It's going to take some time to make the big profit. And my worry is, it's the same worry I talked about on the Kansas City T-Bone show this week. I don't just worry about the T-Bones or the American Association, but I worry about all the minor league teams, all the winter ball teams, the Australian teams, because – if you don't play this year, and there are a lot of teams who aren't playing, you're going to go a whole calendar year without bringing any revenue in. That's a lot to ask. That's a lot to ask any business, whether it be you're a bank, a restaurant, whatever. Think of whatever industry you're in, and you don't bring revenue in for 12 months, then all of a sudden you got to start again. That's a hard to sustain model, and that's my worry is that there'll be some shops that'll close up, and that's my concern. And so it's a real uncharted waters, and it's for all of us, and all business, all sport, not just sports, but all business we're in. You know this from your career as well. It's a real trying time, and I think that's why I come back to, if you're going to do it, and let's just assume going forward November 1, all these things are still going on. You're going to do what you want to do some things that you've not done before, because heck, it's a different year. Why not, right? It's kind of where I come from. So
I agree. And I think, the only other one that I was going to mention of things that I think the ABL could be pioneers in doing this year is, cricket do this thing. They do these power play overs where fielders aren't as allowed to be as out. They have to be close and not out in the field. Maybe there's one batter, or maybe there's one inning that, we have similar to hockey. You have to pull out an infielder and pull out an outfielder for one inning or one batter or something like that,
right.
And it's something like, it's the power play, and it's just,
right.
All of a sudden you've got something different. But yeah, look, I mean, I think to echo your point before, DV, boy, it is this whole, I think, sport in general and business that they, you're right, that they are on a nice edge right now of just kind of going, geez, there's no, and probably more so in the States, I guess, because there's so many minor league teams. It's such a time to just, if you're an owner of a team, to whether you just decide to close up shop or not. But it's
and I didn't throw in the fact that, in case we've forgotten about this with the way baseball is right now on the major league side, but contraction with the MILB, they're going to cut down 40 some odd teams. So you already have some folks that already already worried about what's going to happen with their team next year, and you throw this on top of it. Actually, that's probably another time, another place we can probably talk about in the off season more. But really good stuff. Rounding third, heading for home, talking baseball Australia. Dan Vaughan, Paul Morgan with you, baseball's best mate. We're glad you joined us here. Next week, again, we're going to have this gentleman on right there. Cam Vale is going to join us from the ABL in Baseball Australia. Cam has been really good to us, and I'm looking forward to having him on. He believes in telling the story. He's going to tell. I think he'll be a really good interview for us. I don't know what he'll be able to tell us officially, but I know we're getting close. We're getting close to having something in writing as far as what plan. And I do know this, just in my conversations and knowing him and knowing the folks in the ABL, they have a plan A, B, and C. It's not just, okay, we're going to wing it. And that's the thing I do know. And I'm looking forward to having him on next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. And I think he's going to give us some good intel. I mean, just closing, DV, though, in your mind and your opinion, I mean, everyone wants baseball to be baseball to be back. Of course they do. But if you put an owner's cap on right now, I mean, are you sitting there going, it really, there needs to be real incentive for me to not, absolutely lose my shorts.
I agree with you. And here's the deal. Here's the problem. This happened in Kansas City. I'll give you guys this kind of the story with the T-Bones. The Kansas City T-Bones had brand new owners. We wanted to play. We spent all this off-season time, put new seats in, had upgrades to the stadium, new field put down, all a new logo, new colors. It was excitement. We were ready to go. And we've been successful in the field. We were going to try to really rock the place. Everybody was fired up. But out of our control is this whole COVID thing. We can't control what the state wants to do in Kansas, the state of Missouri wants to do, what the United States government wants to do. We can't control the pandemic. We can't control any of these all these factors are out of our hands. And as an owner, you're left with, I can't do anything. I mean, there's no more I can't sell any more tickets. I can't play. Yeah. I can't sell any more hot dogs. We can't play. I can't play any games. I can't sign. Again, you're being held hostage by this whole pandemic. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's zero. There's nothing the T-Bones could have done this year. I mean, we wanted to play. I mean, who doesn't? You just bought a new toy. You want to show it off. You want to make some money, pay back the debt, or pay back the loan you took out, right? I mean, it's a business thing. But nothing the T-Bones did caused us not to play. It was all out of our hands. And that's what scares me. Is I'm a business owner, I can't do anything. If I own team whatever in the Australian Baseball League, I cannot tell you what I can do better to make it besides my protocols and the things like that. But I can't control those things that are affecting my business. I have no control over this one. It's not like a normal season where I can cover the field during a rain delay or sell, have a better show in the field or sign better players or better, whatever it may be. I got no control. And my worry is, okay, I'm going to say I'm going to play. I'm going to play this season. But I can't control what the pandemic's going to do. That's the scary thing to me. And that's where, as a businessman, as an operator, I got no control. And that's what scares me. That probably is the one thing that would worry me most about going forward, because ain't nothing I can do about it. Zero.
And just finally, my question to you, David, if you were if the ABL sit there now and they've crunched all the numbers and, I don't know, they've come up with 3 options and maybe it becomes to the point that it's not viable. Would you rather see the league come out and say, at the end of August, we've done every bit of, we've done everything we possibly can. It's not viable. We have decided as a league to, put all our support to state league clubs, and the league is not going ahead as a national competition. Would you rather see that earlier, or would you rather see maybe kind of pie in the sky stuff? No different to Manny Ramirez. Would you rather see maybes, or would you rather see the earlier? It's not happening, and this is why.
Having been through that with Kansas City this year, we went through that. We knew we thought we'd start May 17th. Then we kind of knew we were going to be pushed back. We didn't know when. We knew it might be between June 1st and July 1st. We weren't sure. We went even to the last 2 weeks really not sure what was going to happen. And really the league, when they announced the week they announced on a Friday, Monday of that week, there was still some possibilities that some teams might play and might not play. I look back on that experience. In hindsight, it worked out okay because we couldn't do anything anyway. You can't travel, you can't do what you want to do. But it was frustrating because I already went to that final week thinking we were going to any day pack the car up, go to Kansas City, and it really was frustrating to come down that last minute and go. I mean, it'd been great to know 3-4 weeks before that, hey, we're not going to play. You can plan your life a little better, even though there's nothing to plan. So from a personal standpoint, I've been through that. I understand why they didn't do it. I get it because they were trying their hardest, their darndest, to push this thing down the road as far as they could and hoping things got better so everybody could play. I get it. And it was frustrating as a front office worker, as a play-by-play guy, whatever, but I see why they did it. Personally, I'd like to have known 6 weeks before. It would have been great. Having been through it, but I just don't think there's any way the ABL or the American Association or Major League Baseball can pull the plug early without trying to do all they can do to put a product on the field. They owe it. I mean, that's just the way that fans expect it. They're going to expect all that effort, and I guarantee you they're going to make every effort to try to play, if possible. But people will understand, though. They can't. I hope.
Well, that's it. I mean, I think in 90% of people in Australia's heart of hearts, I think on August the 7th, when we're talking in March the 10th, if you said, hey, on August 7th, Melbourne's going to be in a hard lockdown for the next 5.5 weeks. No one can leave their house. They got curfews, all this sort of nonsense. Every state border's closed. Yeah. I don't think anyone would have believed it. I think everyone would have thought, well, this thing can maybe blow over by May. Yeah. Maybe by June, maybe by July, we'll be 100%. I mean, we are backward. We're going backward. We're going forward. So.
Yeah, and it goes along the same lines. And I'll go a little longer on this conversation, but I thought by late July, my wife and I would have a chance to go do some, see something or go somewhere we haven't been before, get out and about and do some things. We were looking at maybe going to Alaska or going to Mexico because I really thought June 1, okay, well, they're going to cancel the season, but by late July, we'll be okay. We'll be able to do some things, but it's not been that way. It's gotten worse. Yeah. And before it got better. And that's the thing, man. That's the whole scary part about it. But any more final thoughts on the week that was?
No, I think. Look, I think it's. I'm with you. I think MLB probably need a flawless week this week. I mean, in your mind, DV, if the two teams get sent off this week again, do you think it's all she wrote? Or
I think they have a choice to make there. If they get to that point again, Major League Baseball may say, okay, we're not going to add any more games. You're gonna you were gonna go percentage wise and. That's all they're going to do. I mean, with enough teams making the playoffs, it should be okay. But I just don't see them having to add games constantly. It's a big week. This is a huge stretch for Major League Baseball. And really, let's look at it this standpoint. This next couple of weeks, let's say the next 10 days of Major League Baseball, the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks, let's say 6 weeks in Australia is going to go a long way to telling us exactly what's going to happen come November in our game over there. And the next 10 days are probably going to tell us what's going to happen going forward. Major League Baseball is going to try to finish, but they just cannot have another meltdown that they've had this last week or so. They just can't have it. So, and my other final thought was I'd give Major League Baseball, I'm with you, a C-. That's what I'm going to say, C-, because yes, they got the games on, but you're barely passing the class when you have whole teams that can't play. That's not good for business.
I know we probably stretch out longer than we would, but it's one. I think the most disappointing thing about and the reason I've given it the C-, I'd be really interested to get your thoughts on it. I just feel like from the broadcast standpoint, because no one can go into the stands, obviously, but I just feel like nobody really has bothered to try to do anything different, and that to me is where the C- has happened. Like I think people get the cardboard cutouts, they get all that sort of jazz, but I just feel like teams, broadcasters and whatnot, not doing anything differently have really, I think, is the reason why the C- heading in towards D for me, and that's. And
I'll give you a great example. I'll give you a great example. The NBA. I kind of think they should have packed them up and not finished the season. That's just my opinion because, it's so late now. They're going to turn around and try to play again. Yeah. But this is a little thing. But those games, even though those are fake generated characters of people in the stands, it's a little thing, but it looks cool. Now, granted, not every team's doing the cutouts in baseball, but little things like that. The cutouts, I think, went a long way. At least in Texas, I think they did well. But I love the little things like that. And that's just a little tweak. They got the broadcasters in that little box they're in or whatever in NBA. They're all kind of in like one of those old. It's like when they had the
Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, you're like exactly. You're locked away there. But at least they're trying to do something locally and something on there. Let's see what we got. Oops, sorry about that. I mean, cover you up there as we close this thing out here. 6 weeks of e-learning and no sport. Yeah, I saw that. My brother, who coaches high school sports up in Indiana, is none one too happy. That's what he looks forward to. And again, that's the world we live in. It's terrible to see that. But thanks for that, though. But what I love about this topic and what we do, we tell ourselves every week we're going to cut this thing down, and we're doing good. But we get off on these tangents, and it's what we do because I think we are very passionate about what we do, and it is good stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. But I guess that's it till this time next week, huh?
It is until this time next week. Friday we'll have. Well, it'll be a little less. At least there'll be a third person speaking a little less, so maybe they'll cut us down a bit.
Well, we won't have you guys to board off your rockers there. Oh, by the way, tomorrow when you guys wake up on a Saturday, we'll be able to check out on our Twitter page or on the Twitter, on my Twitter, and we'll be on the Twitter. It'll be linked to the Talking Baseball Australia. We'll have our we'll call the pin when we will give you a little highlight of this show if I can find one. That's going to be the tough point. Although I do love the bullpen sports. I love it. You look good, mate. Really good. That's a good looking kid. I love it. I want to find me one of those someplace.
Yeah, there's good times ahead for bullpen, which we'll cool.
There's good times ahead. Well, all I'm going to say is good times ahead. Well, you can follow us. Is the little man there? Is he still there? Is he gone?
No, I don't know where he's gone. He's gone. He's it's just him and I. I'm Mr. Mum today.
Mr. Mum. Well, I'll let you go, mate, and I will see you next week, my friend.
Will do. Thanks,
all right,
everybody. Thanks, David.
There he is, Paul Morgan, right there as we close this thing out here. Don't forget you can follow Paul and I and the show right there on Twitter, Talking Baseball Australia, TB Australia, and Paul Morgs. Dan Vaughan Jr. We're also, of course, you're watching us on Facebook Live and on my personal YouTube page. But we're actually, I think we're on my YouTube page. Point is, we'll be on the TBA page as well. But the point is, you can follow us, and I hope you will follow us on Talking Baseball Australia and our personal channels as well, of course, on Facebook Live. We're a show that is a labor of love. We do this because we love the game. We love our league. We love what we do. We're just a couple of guys who call games for fun and do other things for a living. But we love what we do, and we love being a part of the Australian Baseball League. Again, next week's show, Cam Vail will join us. Looking forward to having him on, maybe talking schedule and planning. And I know it'll be a very good conversation. We'll have him right off the top. So we'll look forward to having that. It'll be next week, same time, same place. We were a little late today. We went at the 9 o'clock hour in the West. It'll be 8 a.m. in the West next week, which puts us at 10 a.m. in Victoria in the East as well. And, of course, that'll be 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time on a Thursday in North America. So that'll be the show next week. For Paul Morgan, for everybody for joining us, thank you very much. A big hug, a big virtual hug. Please be kind. Show some empathy. Show some love. Let's all be better when we come out of this thing that we went into it. How about that? Okay? Let's cue the close. Let's put that bad boy on the screen for you. I love this close. I'm very proud of this work. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week on Talking Baseball Australia, baseball's best mate all year long.
Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back 4 inch through.